Hey guys, welcome back to the Stash Project. We're going to take another look at another kit, this time up for review. The new Tamiya Honda Acura NSX. So we're going to flip the camera around and we're going to show you everything that's in this brand new kit. Just came out in Japan this week. It's been out in the United States, Canada, and Europe for about 3 weeks to a month now, so good chances are you've started to see some of these get built up and whatnot. So we're going to show you what's in the box for this $40 model kit. Spin the camera around. We'll be right back. All right, guys. So in this box we get a little supplemental flyer here that has background information. It is a picture of the kit, basically the box art, and then down here will be the Japanese translation, and then you have the translation in it looks like French, German, and up here is the English. So you can take a look at that at your leisure and learn more about the NSX. Here's the instruction booklet. It is in a what I call a booklet form because unlike a lot of Tamiya kits that have like a trifold, 8-fold thing, you can see here there are staples in the binding here, so it is a booklet. First page, typical Tamiya instructions. Perhaps you've never seen a set. I know a lot of you guys don't really buy a lot of import kits, so here's a look through what a Tamiya kit is. I don't think we've reviewed one yet. Down here you have your color guide, which gives you your Tamiya paint call-out number, and then a corresponding English, French, German, and Japanese translation of those things. A person who uses a lot of Tamiya paints, which is a good chunk of everybody because Tamiya makes just really good paints, and even if you don't build a lot of Tamiya kits or any foreign kits, you probably have used or have some Tamiya acrylic paint. And if you know your paints real well, you'll know these by call-outs rather than by their actual names. And what I've always liked about Tamiya's instructions is the fact, and we'll start down here by building the rear suspension, is the fact that everything has color callouts to specific parts. In this case, this rear sway bar is semi-gloss black with chrome silver accents, and then you have a aluminum cradle there. So anyway, you're building your rear suspension. You're putting your rear exhaust on. When it comes up this way, you're basically taking the front differential and front engine, for lack of a term. This is a hybrid electric vehicle, the way a LaFerrari is, the way a 918 Porsche is, the way the BMW i8 is. So it has a electric motor up front and a regular combustion motor out back. So here's your chassis. You're putting your rear suspension on here. This is the front transaxle along with its front electric motor. Building further front suspension. Down here we're seeing detailing the front wheels, or the front brake rotors and the calipers, putting them on their hubs and attaching the steering arm to it. Up here you got your inner fender wells going on the front, and then you're from these two things here are building out your interior, and they are split A-B, and the A-B thing will be your basic guide through the rest of the instructions as to how you're building it. A would be the JDM Honda spec. Obviously, it's got right-hand drive, and B would be export spec, North American spec. Obviously, this is also English spec, or UK spec, I guess I should say, and Australian spec. This would be, everywhere else in the world that drives on the left-hand side of the road. And that goes through, as you continue along here, building your interior. You have your, where are you putting your pedals at, building your interior up, how to color your seats, and then, which dashboard you're choosing, depending on which hand drive you're building. Up here, you're constructing the rest of your interior tub. My camera just a little bit further over to the left than I normally do, and throwing my aim off. All right, let's see. There we go. So, building your interior tub itself, the side panels, and then coming down here, you're putting the interior tub into the body itself. And then you start on construction of the engine. This is a full detail kit in so much as it has an engine. We'll go through the parts and you'll see that you really probably can't really pull the engine out to do anything else with, but then I don't know what really you'd be doing with it anyway. Not a lot of applications to put this engine into. And you're continuing engine construction here by putting basically the engine bottom onto the exhaust pipes, putting the serpentine belts on up here, which just look, I realized just a little bit out of camera shot. I need to tip this up just ever so. Whoops, that's too far. Yeah. All right. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1, and go. You continue along putting your cylinder heads on, and then installation of it into the chassis, and then you're putting your rear transaxle in. You come up here to the next page, and you're putting well, this will be basically the shock towers for the rear suspension, and then over here you're starting to paint up your intercooler pipes and things like that. This would be the rear brakes, and this would be, again, plumbing more of the intercooler. You're seeing you're putting their shocks into the shock mounts, and then your rear inner fenders here. And then we go into building up sort of the engine cover, and this is where part of the problem I have with this kit. Just in an overall sense, and I'll explain everything, by the time we're done here. But this is the rear engine cover. A lot of these things you see here, this K, P, L, N, O, M, are decals, mesh decals that are going to go in here. These up here, let's say these K and L, the gray things here are masks. You put the mask on, you're going to spray paint. This is a mask here. This is a mask here. You're going to spray paint this whole thing, or airbrush, or however you want to paint it. You paint the whole thing semi-gloss black. You take the masks off, so that'll be the parts you can see through. This part's molded open. And then again, these are masks here for this rear window that goes into the interior cockpit. And then, like I said, you're putting these mesh decals on. And the engine cover then goes into place, and we start building the body down here, putting a front grille on. The sort of trunk area, if you will, is separate along with the spoiler, so that goes on over here, telling you to cut out all the dunnage, put on this little nub here, lift the front splitter on down here, and the next page. Go into building up more of basically what amounts to body cavities. These will be things that actually, fortunately, have actual, well, these don't. These are once again, mesh decals. But some of these are actually engraved mesh pieces. These decals, again, telling you to put, basically the back of the front of the air intake in here. Put in your rear quarter fenders, which sort of make up the back of your window here. This shows your masking guide for your front and rear window. This does have one of those one-piece U-cup sort of glass things, which, always, you gotta watch your fitment on that kind of thing as to whether or not it'll fit correctly. Up here, you're painting basically the outside of this area black, and there's another mesh decal. Your choice of your scuttle panel as to which set of wipers you'll put on here, right or left-hand drive. And then you're installing your glass. You're putting your rear view mirror in. Down here, you're building up your front headlights. Front headlights. It's supposed to be your back headlights. You're building up your headlights. You're installing, again, more random bits and pieces of the body as we go down here. Front pieces, back pieces. There's just a lot of air intakes and diffusers in this car. And here we're assembling the body into the interior. We come over here, finally get around to building the wheels and tires. Put the wheels on. Put these large underpans, however you look at it, on. This would be the back one. This would be the front one. or actually say this is the back one entirely, this is one side of it, this is the bottom side of it, this is sort of the inside of it. They're telling you how to install the exhaust ports back here. And then you come up here and you install the front one and the back one. You put the external, the outside parts of the exhaust parts on there, panels, parts, whatever, however you want to look at it. And then you're putting your rear vents on here, choice of your license plates. Your front vents come on down here, choice of license plates. And then your last step up here is putting the mirrors together and putting your windshield wipers on. And then it tells you down here that the NSX is available in 3 standard body colors, red, black, and white, but also 5 metallic colors, including metallic silver, metallic white, or pearl white, I guess I should say, metallic gray, red pearl, and a blue pearl. And then there's several interior colors available, including black, red, tan, and orchid, a purple. So that's that. And then back here you got a decal layout. Basically, do you want Honda logos? Do you want Acura logos? And then that's, you know, pretty much it. And up here showing your Acura and your Honda logos for off back. So that's the instructions to this kit. Before we go in too far into the kit itself, we'll have these pieces here. These are all of the masks for the kit. You see all these little itty bitty shapes down here are for that rear engine cover, and then here are your metal transfers, basically your mirror faces, and then Acura and Honda logos. Over here are your decals, which may actually require me to take them out of the bag to make them look, to actually have them show up. Just seems to be a little bit, I don't know, thicker, if you want to call it that. Wax paper over these than normal. Usually you could show the decals through that wax paper, and they actually end up showing better than they would otherwise. But here's your decal sheet. You see all those mesh decals, and you know, in some cases you can see why they're being used. We'll show you that as we come to the parts. Some of the body panels these are going to fit to are very complex shapes, so doing photo etch may not be the most reasonable thing, but in some cases the photo etch would have been the more reasonable thing. But anyway, you have your gauge cluster here, your center stack, your infotainment centers here, license plates. These little silver whitish things are the LEDs for the headlights, and then you have a bunch of Acura and Honda logos, and NSX badging in 2 different colors, black or silver, depending on what color you paint the car, which is a nice touch because you get a lot of sets of decals where you get a choice of 1 set of stripes or maybe 2 sets of stripes, but that is not the entirety of the vehicle. A good example of that would be the 2010 Ford Shelby GT500 that Revell did, which isn't a bag on Revell to start out with here, but it's just the fact that they include white decals and they include black decals, but they don't include the red ones or the silver ones that you need to build other versions of the car. So here's the clear tree. Your big universal, centerpiece here. Let's say it has attachment tabs on the front here for the scuttle panel for your wipers. This piece right here is the divider between the engine compartment and the interior. So effectively, this part here is the rear window. These are your taillight covers. And then down here you have another part of your taillight here. And these are your headlight covers here. And coming around this corner here, you have some clear inserts for those areas that carry those clear meshes. And then you have your actual headlight piece here, and then another piece that'll carry some clear mesh, or a clear piece for the mesh. Now that does get. Oh, this is the rear window. And this right here is the engine cover, molded in clear. So that's why you got to mask off all those little shapes in there and then put a bunch of decals on. Now, that being said, some of these panels, such as these panels here and these panels here, are pretty flat, pretty basic shapes, and they could have been done with photo etch I realize that not every Tamiya kit comes with, or Tamiya kit, keep calling it Tamiya. Tamiya kit comes with a photo etch straight out, even the ones that have separate, detail upsets. However, I think, at least on my end of things, I have to wait until probably Hobby Design does a detail upset for this kit, simply because when Aoshima did this with their original Aventador Coupe kit, they did all of the body openings, vents and everything, which is a little bit more than what you're seeing here, because some of the body openings on this are actually engraved mesh plastic pieces. They got savaged for it. They were just beaten up one side down the other. There was a factory detail upset for that Aventador, which you kind of need, in my personal opinion, to make the car look halfway decent, because decals on clear pieces just look like, well, decals on clear pieces, because the decals are never going to have the depth of a piece of photo etch in the sense of being shallow or being metal and being an actual pattern. Now, the decals aren't bad, but they're not what you need either, and I don't know. So this brings us to this little parts runner right here. This is your sort of chrome part runner. It's not quite satin. It's not quite brilliant, 1950s kit chrome. I guess it makes a good compromise to a certain extent. And what you have here are the bottom of your dashboards for your left-hand drive and your right-hand drive. These are your headlight reflectors here. This is the surround that goes around your exhaust. Tip it up a little bit there. These will be your door pulls. This is your brake and gas pedal. There is a sequential transmission here, so there's no clutch. This will be your dead pedal. This is your front grille that's chromed. These are your rear taillight reflectors. This is part of the interior center console. This is the other part of the interior center console. And these, I believe, are your part of your door, I believe. I have to go actually look at the instructions. So take a real quick look at the engraving here. Taillight reflectors have good engraving. Actually, there's really not, you can't really complain about a lot of the engraving here. What I will complain about, because, yeah, why not? Since I said there are several things about this kit that bother me, is that I will, in the post-production, show you a picture of the real interior. Which, la-di-da-di-da, you're looking at it right now. Now, come back to these parts. This whole part doesn't need to be chromed. Obviously, the whole bottom of the dashboard in that picture is not chromed. The side areas around the center console are chromed. These door, well, not even chromed, they're in titanium. And these door pulls, they're in titanium. This center console piece is kind of sort of in titanium. There's a lot of stuff that they chrome, and I understand you get into a whole situation where you've got to put stuff on runners, and you got to put stuff into, that sort of kind of makes sense. But to me, chroming the whole bottom of the dashboard causes more problems than it's worth, because you're going to have to dechrome it anyway. I don't understand what the point of putting it on there was. You could have put it onto a different parts tree entirely. It's just part of the sort of corner cutting that you'll see in this kit that somewhat disappoints me, but at the same time really doesn't surprise me. This would be your A tree. Pushing it the wrong way. And it has the majority of your interior pieces as well as your wheels. Here are your wheels, which may not actually function as wheels here because we're shadowing through. Oh, it's in focus now. I went to go grab something, put it behind it, and it went into focus. So these are your backs, and these are your fronts. They are, thicker on one side than they are on the other. So there's your depth difference between your front wheels and your back wheels. From there, you go into, you've gotten turbo intercooler pipes here, turbo intercooler pipes here. Your sort of middle part of your dashboard, depending on right or left-hand drive. This right here will be your sort of your nav screen that fits into that chrome dashboard. Let me go this way. It'll be upside down, but at least it won't be fading out. There you go. So we've got nice vent engravings there. Got the little middle part there that you pitch the vent direction in. This is part of your wing, your steering column, the sort of bezel, if you will, that goes over top of the instrument panel. This is your steering wheel. Your steering wheel, again, see here, try to figure out a way to get it to you so you can see it. Steering wheel, good engraving. Good engraving, has your audio controls and your cruise controls on the steering wheel there. And then, of course, this is your paddle shifter, your rear view mirror. The top of your dashboard, depending on, again, which side you're going to go with here. So we'll take this and sort of pitch it this way so you can see. There's your left-hand drive, and there's your right-hand drive. Your scuttle panels, again, depending on which one you're going to go with here. These are sort of air intakes, and then your windshield wipers, again, depending on which way you're building the model kit. They certainly didn't cut any corners in the sense of building it right-hand drive or left-hand drive. I see a lot of Fujimi kits, which it's not fair to compare a Fujimi kit against an Aoshima kit or a Tamiya kit out of the box. But you see a lot of times where Fujimi will include a right-hand drive, left-hand drive dashboard configuration, but only one set of wipers or, one set of pedals. And you could put a left-hand drive dashboard in, but the pedals are still on the wrong side of the car and the windshield wipers are still on the wrong side of the car. This part runner here is part runner D. I always go backwards. I don't know why I haven't figured that part out yet. Probably annoying to you guys too. This has parts of your suspension, parts of your interior, and parts of your engine. This is sort of the big runner in here, one of two big runners. This is sort of a strut tower here. You got some suspension pieces here. You have your hubs. Your front hubs are these here, which have the little hooks on them to hook into the steering arm. These are your rear hubs. You have your 4 brakes. Your interior panels are obviously here and here. This is the trunk area. These are little inserts that go into the body they're molded separately because of the complex shape. This is your front engine and front differential. Your front would be your struts and your coilovers. Your rear struts and coilovers, sway bar. This is your steering arm. So let's go ahead and spin this around and get you the goods up close. Hopefully. Trying to do this in a way that it won't cause more problems than it's worth. There we go. So you do have a little bit of cross drill detail in your brakes there. Notice they're not herpes brakes. Those are drilled into the brake surface. They don't emanate out of the brake surface. Yeah, Tamiya has seen real brakes before. Go ahead and tell me that these brakes look the exact same way as those C7R brakes. Go ahead, tell me. Go ahead. I'm listening. Waiting for it. You can't because you're lying. It's just amazing that people are still telling me that those brakes in that Corvette are acceptable. This down here represents your front suspension, your front engine here. I'm going to put a backer behind it so it'll focus. There you go. Nice and detailed there. That'll look good with some wash in it to pick out the details. And then you come over onto this side of the parts runner, and this will have your seats and your rear view mirrors. Now, I have a very large problem with these seats, and that is that while they are superbly engraved, very nicely detailed and everything like that, you flip over the tree and yeah, there's no backs to these seats. It's not like, oh, they're not on this runner. No, there are no backs to these seats. And while that would not necessarily be a problem because of the way the interior tub is, and we'll get around to that part here in a second, this part, where the headrest is, yeah, that'll totally be seen. And yes, obviously you could shove a bunch of putty in there and form it to fit, or you could just get some sheet styrene and shove it in there to make yourself a headrest. But the fact that there's no back to the seat, and I know a lot of people were like, well, the seams and everything else like that. I had a discussion with a good friend of mine about the fact he'd rather there not be seat backs because that's just another seam you have to fix. Okay, maybe, but we'll cover the whole point of why I think this is a shortcut at the end of the video. But this is cheaping out right here, making the backs not having any seat backs. If you don't want to make the seat back in this whole big area here, fine. I don't need that. But I need something for the back of this headrest because his headrest will be visible from the outside of the car. if you were to look into it in certain angles. Yeah, just sitting on your shelf, you never know it's not there. But I just think that's just, again, just cheaping out, and it's not a thing you would necessarily expect out of a Tamiya kit. But then again, based on some Tamiya kits that they've rushed out to be first, it is something you would expect out of a Tamiya kit. Again, we'll talk about that at the very end of the video. Your center console is here. This represents the top of the block and the exhaust system. When it sits in the actual car, it's going to sit this way, upside down, with, or well, I should say, when it sits in the car, it's going to sit this way. This is the bottom of the block itself right here with all these openings. Now you'd be like, oh my God, look at all these openings on this exhaust. This, again, is cheaping out because you're not making just solid pieces of plastic here. You're saving, what, tenths of cents, fractions of cents, to not put this in and have it be solid. However, because when you view it in the car, and when the car is done, it's going to be this way. And remember, there are those gigantic sail panels underneath the car that are going to completely and totally block off the visibility of everything. Okay, it doesn't look that bad because obviously it's solid on top, and you'll be building, onto the top of the block here. But this is why I said this car can't necessarily be this engine can't be taken out of this car because, there's no oil pan here. There's just sort of a bottom of the block. This is all hollow, so yeah, it's not. That part's not going to happen for you. So coming over here, you've got your intake, your intake. You've got your cylinder heads. You've got sort of the transaxle, back of the transmission here. Your front engine cover, your exhaust, your mufflers, your resonators. You've got U.S. aka Japanese style plates, and Euro style plates. A couple of intercoolers, which actually have some pretty good engraving on them. Let's look at the engraving on these engine pieces over here while we're on this here. It's excellent engraving. It's very sharp. It's very, no flash, very little minimal seams and cleanup. So, that's all what you'd expect out of Tamiya. And this here would be basically the, transaxle and the rest of the engine block. And then over here, you have your interior piece, your interior tub. Not a lot to look at here in its raw form because obviously everything builds into here. It's kind of interesting that it has these two big holes in the bottom. They don't really necessarily correspond to anything, as they don't, there's sort of kind of a way to fit it into the chassis, and we'll show you that in a second, but it's not, they don't need to be molded open, really, but, they're going to be under the seat, so you'll never see it anyway, so it's sort of irrelevant. And again, you got some ejector pins in there, but they're going to disappear underneath the dashboard and underneath the seat. The clear piece will fit up here in this area here, and so the back window is going to be here, which will let you again see the headrests through the back window. Don't have any backs to them. Got one more big runner here. And this is the E-runner. I don't know why it's not the A-runner, but be that as it may. This right here will have your frame and your monocoque for your basically the bottom of your interior floor pan. This is going to be facing forwards this end. And then you have your rear suspension, your front suspension, your front grille area, your below the grille area here is your place where your front license plate will attach. These are your front corner grills, your rear corner grills. Let's bring those up so we can see the engraving. Again, it's probably prototypical and it looks good. I wish the rest of the parts were just engraved this way and just be done with it. Over here, it's kind of funny because it looks like somebody chopped a chassis in half and took the middle. But these are your front and rear diffuser. Well, this is a diffuser in the back here, but just a front splash pan and the bottom of the front lip, as it were. This will show you the insides of those. They're just really, you end up painting this area here only because you will be able to see down to it from the top. But other than that, you know, moving the ejector pins and all that stuff, you're not really going to see it's there to provide a color contrast, because on the car, the middle of the chassis is gray. So if you left this black, it wouldn't quite technically look right. And then you take that exhaust overhang, for lack of a better term, the exhaust. I'm drawing a blank of the way I want to describe this, but it's sort of just an exhaust surround, that chrome surround that goes around the exhaust pipes, fits in through the back here. But I mean, it's nice because everything on here is molded open. I don't think there's really a way to show you that. But let's see. Yeah. You can kind of sort of see all those air ducts are molded open. These are your inner fender wells. Not a lot to talk about there. These are your, the rear suspension frame and the rear strut mounts. This is your front air intake. This is your front lip, and this right here represents basically like the top of the electric engine. And this here, like I said, is your frame. Let me flip it around this way so you can see the engraving on the bottom. Looks nice. Doesn't seem to be. I mean, you could see the ejector pins coming through the plastic in the sense of mold disturbance, but they're not actually sinking. They're not sink marks there. This is, of course, the side you're going to be building on. You'll see here are the big round things in the middle that the interior attaches to, but you see it's not a very thick, it's not a very deep thing. It could have molded those holes closed, I think, but it's sort of irrelevant. It doesn't really matter. Again, like I said, this is the front end of the car. This is the back end of the car. And, lots of sink marks, or lots of ejector pins all over this, but you'll never see it because the interior is going to sit down right on top of that. So that leaves us with a couple of things left. Obviously, the body. Let's take a look at the tires real quick while we have them in the bottom of the box here. One, and there's the other one, packing of polycaps. And these are no Nemo brand tires. They have no sidewall detail. Again, it's a little bit of a corner cut, if you will, because there's no tire branding. Tire tread, though, looks very nice. No complaints there. And this would be your larger rear tire. It's larger both in just diameter, period. It's, if we put these treads together, you'll see that clearly one of them is taller than the other one. And obviously it's a much wider diameter as well, or a much deeper. It's a different diameter. It is a different depth, and it is a different width. So everything you would want there as far as the tires being in scale, I think is correct, or pretty near. No sidewall detail. It could be the fact that when they were designing this kit, it was not known what the tire manufacturer was going to be necessarily. Or maybe they did and they just want to pay for the licensing. But that brings us to the body. They're going to make a GT3 class race car out of this. Right now there is a GT1 division car that runs Super GT. And personally, to make this into a GT3 class, you really wouldn't need to do too much to this body, I don't think. Some flares and a big back wing. It'd be nice to see Tamiya make some race cars again. Although I think that might just be holding your breath. So here's your side profile. I'm trying to get it into it at one time. Can we? There we go. So here's your side profile. We'll come around this way. Here's your Darth Vader mask, if you will. Looks like a combination of I don't know. A lot of people say this looks like an ugly version of an Audi R8 mixed with maybe a Dodge Charger. Got the squinty Dodge Charger, Dodge Dart headlights in it. Body's nice and smooth, somewhat polished mold, not over polished like the Humvee was. Get around to the back here. I want to show those parking. There we go. Got the molded parking advisors there. You know, a little back radar to let you know you're getting too close to something. And then, you know, you pitch this way, and here's where that rear piece will fit, and then your rear glass will go here. Overall, it's a very nice body. It's very smooth. You know, you've got some dunnage in it, so to speak, to keep it from crushing and transport. It's got a Tamiya logo or a Tamiya logo with a copyright inside there. You need to, you know, bust that off to get to make the you know, interior smooth. You know, overall, it's a pretty nice kit. You know, you get those little slits on the chrome. Those are actually the door handles. They fit into there. Mold lines are very, very minimal. They have them running in pretty sensible places. You'll see, let's see. It's kind of hard to, right there. Whoops, drop my poker. Right there is a mold line. It comes out of the sort of, the mold line comes down the windshield, runs the line here, and then it goes across this front fender. And it's kind of hard to show because it's going to only show like as a reflection, and the reflection is sort of in the light at the same time. There you go. You see how this light is you know, not even. It sort of breaks apart. Well, the mold line runs right where that break is, and then it runs down the edge here of the front end, which is now completely and totally wildly out of focus. And it does, and this is going to be a little bit of a complex sanding. It does run down right here, which I had it in focus for a second, and now it's gone. And then when it comes down through here, it comes out and it shoots straight across this area right here, which will cause, you know, you're going to have to get some softer sanding material out for this, because obviously you don't want to just be busting into this with a regulation sanding stick. You know, that's going to completely and totally obliterate the curve of the body right there. And then we're going to take a look here on the back real quick, see if we can see where, I see already. We can get this to focus. There we go. It sort of comes across the area right about, whoops. I'm talking and moving at the same time, and it's not doing me any favors, folks. I see that now. On the rear end of the car here, the line comes literally on a diagonal right across here. Then comes down along the back edge of the fender here, and comes down across this plane and then goes around the edge of the wheel. So at least the back one doesn't go across any real complex shapes. You just need to sort of smooth out the contours on this back end here to take the line out of it. Oh, well, you know, again, minor mold lines. There's nothing, you know, you wouldn't have in a normal sense of a model, just being what it is. I will say on this side over here where the gas filler cap is, it comes diagonally down here and then goes across that filler cap and goes down the fender line and across. So you're going to have to be a little careful here getting that line out of the middle of this filler cap, because the filler cap runs, you know, down this belt line angle here. So a little bit of care required to get the line out and not destroy your body character line right there. And that, guys, is that for the kit. So what do we think? Well, we think it's a pretty good kit overall. You know, it does exhibit pretty much all of the things you'd want out of a Tamiya kit. Minimal mold lines, crisp detail, very good engraving, no warped parts, no short shots, nothing out of the ordinary. I don't know. Why is he putting this back in the bag again? Yeah, it drives me crazy. It's all that crinkling. Actually, nobody complained about that, but I'm not doing it on purpose because nobody complained about it. I just got to put it back away, and it's just so much easier to talk to you guys while I do it. You know, it's pretty much a normal Tamiya breakdown in the sense that it has two great big runners and a bunch of little parts, you know, here and there. The engine is there. It is quasi full detail. Like I said, you won't be able to, as I drop the bag on the floor, you won't be able to move it into something else because it completely lacks the bottom of the engine. That's completely and totally understandable due to the nature of the build. You know, it's an argument that I've had with a number of people a number of times, and I don't think either one of us is ever going to change each other's mind in terms of what we expect in that sense. I don't particularly mind not having the bottom of an engine because I build my kits, in addition to being mostly box stock, I also build them almost all factory stock. So I'm not taking this out of something else and sticking it in something else. You know, so it to me in the long run does not matter if there's no oil pan, because this engine will never be in anything else to me on my end, and you know, so it doesn't matter. To other people, that may be a thing. I don't, whatever I ever say about that, I'm not discounting your opinion on that. It just isn't mine. So is a agree to disagree type of situation. So we've talked about shortcomings in this kit in the sense of being a little on the iffy side in cutting corners. Okay, one, I really don't appreciate this whole bottom of the thing being on there. I don't appreciate, you know, I get why the stuff is organized like this, like why the door pulls are on there and stuff like that. However, they're not the right color. Not the right texture, still not the word I'm looking for. They're not the right shine. Yeah, I could just spray some dull coat on this with somebody else. What are you complaining about? You just put some dull coat on it. You know, none of this stuff had to be shiny except these, you know, taillight reflectors and these headlight reflectors. These are the only parts on that need to be chromy looking. We've seen Tamiya do this a number of times where they put incredibly tiny little parts runners in. You would just basically, you'd tool up, or in design, you know, in 3D, you put these parts together, and then you would just put it on a runner that has, like, say, 3 sets. One here, one here, one here, maybe 5 sets, 6 sets, you know, down, run them sideways here, and then you chop the runner up before you ship it out. You see this all the time. Anybody who has the Revell 1965 Impala convertible, you know, that kit is based on the 65 Coupe. And anybody who has been around long enough remembers the 65 Coupe came out in that big box. It was one of those kits that right there where Monogram sort of went away as a brand name and everything became Revell Monogram, that just became Revell. This was a time when the 50 Ford was in a big box, the 56 Nomad first edition was in a big box, the 59 Impala first edition was in a big box, the 60 Impala first edition was in a big box, the 59 Cadillacs were in big boxes. You get the idea. They were all in much larger boxes, almost Tamiya-sized boxes. When they've reissued those kits, they've had to chop the runners all up in, you know, the factory to get them to fit into the more conventional, smaller boxes. It's not like they took the molds and busted the molds apart. They're all just molded, you know, in one big runner like they used to be, and then they're chopped apart. If you have an original 65 Coupe and one of the 65 Impala convertible reissues that came in a smaller box a couple of years ago, I just challenge you to take them both out of the box and just start piecing them together. You'll see exactly where they're cut apart at. And so that would be what you do there. You make all those things. You have them chromed, real bright chrome, and then you chop them up to put them into the kits, you know, one tooling piece, a number of planes. I mean, that's what they do with tires, guys. These tire tools aren't just 4 tires. They're like 12 tires, and they punch out, you know, 3 sets at a time, and then they're, you know, bagged individually. Same thing when you see wheels done. You know, usually when you get aftermarket wheels, you just get this bottom runner, this little rectangular runner, right? You just get this part. It has these little center caps here that the Acura or Honda logos stick on, but you would just get this little part down here on the bottom because this part would just get chopped off. When they're actually tooling wheels up, at least on an Aoshima and a Fujimi scale, the molds have like 2 or 3 sections of these things in there, and they punch out like 3-4 wheel sets at a time. Because it would just be silly to have one tiny parts runner punching out. Whoops, I'm losing tires over here while I'm talking. What? Oh my. One went way overboard. We'll have to go grab that before we put this rest of this away. But, you know, So this could have been done in that sense where the shiny stuff could have been on a real chrome tree, and then you satin plate the way Tamiya did with pretty much everything for the longest time. You satin plate the rest of it. At least then some of the stuff has the right sheen to it, and you're not taking stuff and having to really convert it. You're gonna have to dechrome the bottom of the dashboard because there's way too much of it dechromed. If the door pulls have been satin, you could have left them alone, I think. This weird clear parts thing that goes over the rear engine almost to me negates why this kit should be full detail in the first place. And if you're like, oh my god, I can't believe he said it shouldn't have an engine. Let me show you why, because there's a really great picture of it here on the box. You see this right here? That's what it looks like when you're done. Because this is going to be glued on, and this is going to be glued on. And this little Y, this little flux capacitor, for lack of a better term, right here in the middle, this is all the more of the engine you're ever going to see again. It's a lot of detail for detail's sake. And frankly, I think they could have just tooled the top of the engine up and figured out a way to make all of that mesh decal nonsense go away. Either tool up mesh pieces, the way the front grille, the front corners, and the back corner meshes are, or include photo etch pieces. Now, granted, this is a really complex shape, and I get why, in this sense, this is the way it is, as far as the decals go, because there's mesh that goes in these little crevices right here, and that would be incredibly hard to bend in the right shape with tiny little pieces of photo etch. You're going to end up frustrating more modelers than you're going to satisfy in that case, and I'm okay with that part being mesh, because it just is what it is. Again, the average modeler, the run-of-the-mill guy who's going to see this go, ooh, Acura, and buy it because $40 isn't that much for a Tamiya kit in reality. Especially in the United States side of things, because it is. I paid, I bought this at my local Hobby Guys for $40. That's not, oh, I imported it from Japan and I got a deal. No, that was the U.S. price, $40. The kit price is like $34, and if you ship it out of Japan by itself, you're going to be paying like another $7, $8 to ship it. So actually, technically speaking, it's probably $1 or $2 cheaper to buy it here in the United States. Again, we talked about this in the stash report. This is Tamiya's new deal now to get people to stop buying. Tamiya USA was taking too big of a hit from people like me buying their kits from Japan and shipping them over. So they've started this new tactic where they've lowered the price a little bit. There's no reason to effectively double the price, and that's what Tamiya did a lot of times. The Tamiya USA kits were twice the price of the Japanese kits, which is why HobbyLink Japan and places like that became so popular, because it's cheaper to buy stuff that way. And by delaying it and lowering the price, now they've made it actually pretty competitive if you factor in the shipping. The kit's $34. I paid $40. Okay, I paid $6 too much, but to ship it would cost me $8 and take 3 weeks. It's cheaper to buy it now and have it now. And, in this case, I canceled my HobbyLink Japan pre-order and I bought it in the United States. But some of that money that, they cut out of this could have given me headrests. I don't need an engine. I need the top of an engine. That's all I need for this kit, because I'll never see another lick of it after that. So give me the top of the engine and then give me seat backs. Let's reorganize these dashboards a little bit and get rid of all these mesh decals. It's just sort of, it has that pushed feeling, it has that rushed feeling, and it has that we've got to cut the corners we need to cut in order to get the kit out in the time frame that we've been given. And, Honda probably wanted the engine to be in there, and that's why the engine is in there. Tamiya probably really couldn't care one way or the other if it's curbside or not, because look how many curbside kits they've done over the years. None of those 350Zs and a lot of the race cars that came out in the late 90s and 2000s, they didn't have engines. None of those Super GT cars have engines. They all have the metal chassis plate. And you start looking at things like the Aston Martin with its part of an engine, and the GTR with part of its engine being molded into the body and stuff like that. You can see where, not having a full detail engine is clearly not a priority to Tamiya on certain circumstances. And this is one where I think they could have bypassed the engine altogether, because you really are not going to see anything. It's not nearly as bad of a half-hearted attempt as the Toyota 86 and Subaru BRZ kits that they rushed out pow-mow without a U.S. export building option just to beat Aoshima. Those engines are really kind of sad, and they have clearly not, they did not stand the test of time compared to the Aoshima kits, which are, been reissued a gajillion times, and the Tamiya kits never have been reissued once. They've just sort of maintained in the catalog. So the kit in general, yes, I think it's worth $40 because it's everything you want out of a Tamiya kit. I've covered what I think could have been done better. It's up to your judgment and your discretion to decide if those points I've made would discourage you from buying this kit. But I personally, I don't think the NSX is not necessarily ugly. It's not the most beautiful car in the world either, but I really like the car in general. It's one of those cars that really you need to see in person, and I've seen one of the pearl white ones in person to really, really appreciate what it looks like. Seeing pictures of it online don't, to me, do the justice the real 1-1 car does, and having seen the real 1-1, I had to have the model kits. So, anyway, guys, I hope you appreciate. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed the review. Hope it was informative and helps you in your decisions, and we'll see you guys on the other side.